So this is awesome. I mean, we are going into what in D2C is called Q5, right? It's like they're the most important quarter, arguably, for a lot of supplement brands, health brands, lifestyle brands, because around New Year's, when everybody wants to work on themselves and make all these resolutions to get healthier and happier. And so, yeah, we see this spike, which really begins at Black Friday, but goes through January for a lot of health and wellness brands. And so today we're doing a nice webinar on sort of how to optimize your marketing to really target those customers in Q5. And I'm joined by Jordan O'Connor, who's in Ireland. Do you want to introduce yourself, Jordan?
For sure. Yeah. Super excited for this. I'm doing a lot more of these webinars recently, and it's great just connecting with people and sharing insight into what we see across so many brands, and the same as yourself, Drew. So, name is Jordan O'Connor. We have a retention agency called Retention for Brands. Funny enough, we used to be called Email for Brands, and we changed. We rebranded our whole company because of this shift, because of the shift of it's not just email anymore. You need the new channels. And I think the whole theme of this webinar is just amazing at the right time. New year, new you, new channel. I think it's so important to be looking at these other channels, which we're going to talk about today. So really excited. I feel like Black Friday is massive for a lot of brands. I do feel like supplement brands definitely, they find it harder during that period. Not many brands or not many people are buying supplements during that period. They're looking at other alternatives. And I think coming into January is the time to shine. And that's what we're going to go through today. Lots of exciting stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I love the new brand, Retention for Brands, because I think it just gets, not that email doesn't work. Email always works really well. SMS always works really well. But to take a step back, it's really more about retention and lifetime value than being wedded to any one channel. So my name's Drew Sanocki. I'm one of the founders of PostPilot, and we are a programmatic direct mail platform. Plugs into your e-com stack. Think of it like Klaviyo for postcards. And yeah, I agree with Jordan. I think it's Q5 is a great time to think retention. A lot of brands sort of blow their acquisition budget on Black Friday. They get a bunch of new customers in because everybody discounts. Those are marginally profitable customers at best. And so you see a lot of brands, like they got to make their money. And the way they do that is on the second or third purchase that happen over the next 60 to 90 days after Black Friday. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Jordan, founder of a great agency, Retention for Brands, and this other guy, Drew Sanocki, who was not was not with his shirt off on the homepage. We do have we're using Riverside for the webinar. If you have any questions or comments, I got the chat window open here. I'm happy to kind of jump in, but we'll just press ahead. So yeah, this is how we let it off. I think Q5, a great time for customer lifetime value, for getting a second and third purchase, which is where most D2C brands actually generate cash flow, largely because they discount so much on the first purchase, which is just an effect that is compounded over Black Friday. So here's a little bit of the secret sauce. It's kind of what we're talking about. You've acquired these customers, and then you've acquired a bunch of traffic. So like Black Friday, if it's good at one thing, it's driving a lot of traffic to your site. So you're going to get all these new leads in Klaviyo. You're going to have all these new abandoned carts, new people on the site. You want to retarget them, bring them back in, and trigger a bunch of flows that encourage those visitors to make the first purchase, make the second purchase. If you can automate this going through the new year, it's all the better. So that's where we're going to start. Jordan, you wanted to double tap a bit on direct mail.
100%.
So yeah, we talk about own channels like as core to any retention marketer, right? It's like the channels that a brand owns that they don't have to pay Facebook to market to those people. They don't have to pay Google, right? It's like your own, you have the customer data, and I think you can market to them without paying a tax to somebody. And really the big three historically have always been email, SMS, and direct mail. I know this because I started a direct mail company. Direct mail is always sort of like the like forgotten one, because it historically has been really hard to use. You got to find a printer, you got to find paper. You don't want to deal with all those things versus like just logging in and sending an email. At PostPilot, we've tried to make it a lot easier to use.
Yeah, you guys definitely have, Drew. I'll say that. Because we're seeing this as well. Like Drew's inside of this bubble. So, you might be like, it's easy, but other people might be like, it's difficult, right? But one thing I can say from working closer with PostPilot is it's gotten a lot easier. The process has gotten easier. And the big thing, and we see this across, we're managing, so many brands across the board with their retention. And when we have these conversations with brands, it's like there's a couple of things. I think it's really important that people can break these, like these limiting beliefs, because direct mail has only gotten easier. It's gotten much easier. Like really, and I will talk about the step by step and what you need to do to get it set up. But it's gotten easier over time with email, with SMS. Every year there's more compliance. There's less data that we can get. And we've all seen this with different updates from Google, different updates on Apple policies. But direct mail it's getting easier and the data is there. And, you can see these 3 points here. Like most people are afraid of the investment. I think, a lot of people give out about paying big Klaviyo bills, but if you just took a fraction of that and you put it back into physical mail, you're not going to see the numbers straight away. You don't just, send out your postcards and a day later you don't see the ROI, but over a couple of weeks and, especially over a month, you see that investment come back. And I think a lot of people are afraid of this. They're afraid of the unknown because it's a channel that they've never done before. It's like going from Meta to hopping over to native ads. It's completely different. But once you actually, spend a couple of hours really understanding it, you'll see that investment come back. You'll see how easy it is and you'll see how fun it is. And I think a lot of people don't know where to start as well. And that's why we're doing this webinar today. That's why we're educating people here, because so many brands, like we work with, over 50 brands across the board. And there's still a large portion of them that don't do physical mail. And it's really important for us in 2026 that we get every single brand on it. And that's why we rebranded our company, and that's the goal. So yeah, really important. It's very simple. It's getting easier. And everyone's going to see that on this webinar today, the simple things that you can do to make sure that you're tapping into direct mail.
Yeah, I second that. I would say like the primary use case, which is almost guaranteed to work, is basically like flipping whatever's working in email into direct mail. And the reason you want to do that is because I would encourage anybody listening here, go into your Klaviyo, create two audiences, create an audience of everybody who's purchased from you before, these are your customers, right? And then another audience of people who have opened an email like in the last 30, 60, 90, whatever, 180 days. And you often see that, man, it's like a very small percent of my overall customers that actually are opening my emails. I've seen 10%. In some cases, it's higher than 50%, but it's rare. It's rare. It's usually below 50%. So I got like a great audience, customers. They know who I am. They bought from me. And if I only rely on email, I'm only hitting about 10 to 50% of them. How do you get the other 50%? Some of that's going to be SMS, but direct mail is like a big reason to do it. And you do that and you're almost guaranteed to get an ROI. Yeah. So we're going to talk about how.
For sure. And one thing with email as well is every year people subscribe to more brands. Now, that's not really a bad thing, but it just means that you're fighting for more attention. So it's really important that we can have that other channel. Like I'll just share a quick story here about physical mail and like what experience I've seen with my girlfriend. So she orders, online all the time. She's ordered from all the brands, big in the D2C space, clothing, makeup, cosmetics, everything. And she ordered something for her dog. She ordered dog food online and got the parcel, and then a couple of days later, she submitted stuff online and then she got a physical mail and there was like an image of her dog there. And she was just blown away. She told me this. She told her mom. She told her friends. She took photos on and like shared it with her friends. And it's just like so impactful because so many people still haven't got like marketed to this way. And it's like so impactful. And it's not always just about like, like pushing more, buy more, buy more, buy more. You can send these postcards in different ways that are going to have a big impact. And if your goal is to build brand and see an ROI, there's no better way to do it. So let's talk about this slide here. So And like what I'm saying to like on the back end of that is like when we started doing this as an agency for all of our clients, we got excited about it again. Like what can we send in the mail that's going to get customers excited? What's going to get, what's going to get them excited where they're going to pick up their phone and share it with friends or post it on social media. And internally, we're always trying to come up with new ideas with clients. And you can see clients as well. The thing they ask about the most is like, how's the ROI going on the physical mail that gets sent out, right? And it's like super, super exciting to see it come back. And before I hopped on this call, I just checked out some numbers from Black Friday, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Nice.
And one thing I will say as well is, there's a lot of agencies out there and even a lot of brands that they're afraid to recommend this because they don't have experience with it. But one thing I will say is, with PostPilot, you guys do it all. You have your account managers, you do the design, you do everything. And I think a lot of people might not be aware of that. It's like, oh, I have to design this campaign. I have to like get clear on all this stuff. Who do I send this to? But PostPilot do it all. And it's really important to just start simple. PostPilot do all the heavy lifting and then just like test campaigns. And you can see this like step 1, 2, 3 here. Like, honestly, I don't recommend going in and building out all these automations straight away because you're going to get too overwhelmed. And this might be simple stuff to Drew and everyone on the team, but I think just start simple. Just start with, okay, let's take these audiences that Drew mentioned, if it's abandoned carts or if it's buyers, and let's just test a campaign. Let's start with $1,000 or $10,000. I think, 1% of your monthly revenue is a good place to start. If you're doing, $250,000 a month, let's take 2.5K. Let's put that into physical mail. Start with campaigns. Then what's going to happen is you're going to see the results come in over the next couple of weeks. And then you can start to test a little bit more. You can take another segment. Damn, it's like you're playing with house money, right? You get this money back. You're like, let's go again. And let's go at the next campaign. And then once you do that, this is when you can start to dive into the weeds where you're actually building out these automations. You're building automations for site abandonments, for winbacks, for cross sells. And there's a lot of great technology behind it as well, which Drew's going to talk about. But I think just start simple. Start with testing the campaigns, see the results yourself, get excited about it, chat with your team about it, and then you can go into building the automations, and then it will just come out every single month, and it will just be another channel that you've built that doesn't require a media buyer, that doesn't require to build all these new creatives every single week. Like, it's like most brands we chat with now, they're just turning and burning creatives. They're just trying to find the best creative strategist. It's just like super difficult. They're trying to like crack creative, but sure, like that is important. But if you can get this added in, it's going to be an amazing channel in 2026.
You probably have a lot of, at your agency, I'm guessing the average brand has, you go into their Klaviyo account, it's probably half automated campaigns and then half one-off.
Yeah, exactly. That's the split. That's the split we look for. Yeah, 50-50.
We see that too. It's like half the campaigns are more of those evergreen, abandoned carts, winbacks, stuff like that. The other half are one-off, Valentine's Day, Black Friday, stuff like that. 100%. So these are, I think you were coming up with some of these campaigns as big opportunities for this year.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'll touch on this. Yeah. So you can hop in here when you want as well, Drew, but I'll go through this, and these are the big things that we're pushing on right now. And majority of these can be tied back to physical mail as well. I think it's really important to touch on these. So the first one is just like nailing in the first impression. I always say this, but you get one chance to make a good first impression. Like that story I shared with my girlfriend ordering dog food. It's like really important that we can have these things in place, and especially if it's a higher AOV. Like let's say someone orders, let's say they spend double the AOV. Because they're spending more, let's make sure that we send them a postcard, a physical mail, to make sure that we can like nail in that first impression, have an amazing first impression, because it's just so important. Sure, if they're like super low average order value, if you don't want to spend the money, you don't have to. But I think nailing in the first impression from your touch points, from email, from SMS, and of course physical mail as well, is really, really important. Drew, is there any other examples of things that people will send post-purchase? Like I know there's maybe the handwritten letter. Is there any good examples that you've seen?
Yeah, I've handwritten letter, and I think there's like larger format cards. I don't have an example in front of me, but like a bigger, like 6x9, or even a catalog where it's like, we know our product. Everybody here knows every product they sell. You got to think in terms of the customer. The customer doesn't. They often come in, they land on a category or product page. They buy that one product. They might not know you offer a whole other suite of products. So I think like chasing the order with sort of like, hey, you bought the melatonin, but did you know we also have a zillion other kind of supplements, to address these issues? That's like a good use of a follow-on campaign.
100%. And I think the point one and point two here tie into each other. You're delivering that amazing first impression, but you're also running a delivered win back. And this can be through email, this can be SMS, but you can also do this through physical mail once again. And this is basically, this can be after, the peak period of Black Friday, or you can also do this in January. But once someone actually gets their order delivered, then you can have a delivered win back, pushing people to come back and buy again if that's for themselves, or if it's this side of the year as a gift. We've seen great results here after Black Friday doing this strategy. Generally, for it to work good, you have to do similar discounting to your Black Friday offer, or even better. But obviously, this is, you're controlling the channel here, so people aren't seeing this on your website or on your socials. So that's number 1 and 2. The third one is to follow the data and not the guesswork. And I feel like we're just in this space right now where there's just so much data, there's so much tracking, and there's just a lot going on. But definitely like have a look under the hood and figure out like, what is the data? And what I'm talking about here is like, what is the data between the products that people buy next? What is the data between the time delays on first purchase and second purchase to third purchase, and on your best sellers? When we've just tried to randomly win people back through a 30-day or a 60-day win back, it never really works. Like, sure, it does, but you can get much better results when you actually follow the data. If you have a look at, let's say, a supplement brand and people come back after 49 days, then have your win back going out around that time, and make sure that you have your physical mail going out during that time as well. Really, really important. And obviously you can test this inside of PostPilot and stuff like that as well. And I'll just keep going here. Number 4 is to prioritize the second purchase. And Drew, I'm sure you see this as well, but we've seen this across all of our clients, where if we can get people to come back and buy again, LTV will skyrocket. And this is like, all of these kind of tie into one, like nail the first impression, run your delivered win back, follow the data, prioritize second purchase. Like all of these follow in together, same as like cross-sell with intent. So just making sure like that you're going off the data and that you're recommending the product that people should buy next. If they purchase the fat loss, you don't want to be selling them the weight gainer, right? You want to make sure that you're cross-selling with intent.
We talk about we call it like engineering a second purchase. Like you don't leave it to chance. There are things you can do as a marketer to really lock it in. And that's follow on emails, follow on direct mail, follow on SMS with the right product. That makes a lot of sense. They bought the mattress, you got to sell them the pillow or something, but it's like 100%. You chase the product with the right second offer.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people know this, and everyone watching this is like, like nodding their head and they know this, but just make sure you're going off the data and making sure that that's what the data is telling you. And there's 3 more points here. Number 6 is to collect feedback. Like I was saying about the data, but just make sure you're collecting feedback, figuring out who your customers are. You can do this through a simple type form. You can do this through reply emails, getting people to click. And then when you get that feedback, that can then be a campaign or a trigger for your next physical mail campaign. So you collect this data on people, if that's, certain problems that they're facing, certain things that they like, or stuff that they've ordered. And then you want to make sure that then you can then take that data so you can then run campaigns on the back end of it. We've seen some great results here. And then it's just to keep up the touch points consistently, make sure you're having those campaigns go out. And this is all about building brand, building community. And you can do this through physical mail as well. Like have a quarterly update from the founder about what's going on in the company, share behind the scenes, like almost like think of your customers as your shareholders and you're updating them on what's happened, right? Like getting creative like this. And one of the clients we work with, we do an email every Friday sharing behind the scenes about the brand and in like a newsletter style. And it consistently is the best performing email ever. And we're more than likely next year going to roll this over and do a quarterly one for them with physical mail. So it's just a nice touch. And then the last one is to push for reviews. Just so important. We always just say reviews fuel retention. And there's some different platforms that we recommend here, but just pushing for reviews. And I know, Drew, like people have used, we've not done this personally, but I know people have used physical mail to push for reviews as well. You can get them to scan and leave a review and stuff like that. And I think it's a very impactful way to do it. So if there's anything to add to any of this, let me know. But like, if everyone just follows this stuff and adds in physical mail there, you're just going to see much better results. It's all simple stuff. It's easy to do, but I think a lot of brands don't focus on it.
Yeah, this slide is pretty much, if you're going to copy and paste one slide or screenshot one slide, this is like the playbook for how to get a second purchase and increase your lifetime
100%.
value. So it's a big focus now. And you mentioned reviews, Jordan. I think a lot of I'm guessing most people on the call sell supplements or something related to that because we build it as sort of like this Q5 webinar. But I have yet to see one that's like 100% D2C. Like every supplement brand I know sells on Amazon. So that's another reason, we see a lot of the supplement brands trying to drive reviews on Amazon post-purchase. And we have this feature called Halo, which allows us to do attribution through Amazon. In other words, every time you send a marketing campaign, could be even an email campaign to your list, a certain percentage of those recipients that respond to the offer are going to go order through your Amazon store. And you historically have not been able to track that. It's just like, okay, but you should, right? The campaign still worked, whether they bought from D2C or from Amazon. So we launched Amazon Halo. It's like I think we're one of the only marketing platforms that has this integration with Amazon. So if you're one of those brands that has a significant percentage of your sales going on through that channel, you can measure the impact of the direct mail drops, at least through your Amazon account, which is great. I think a lot of people have loved that because it really shows the full impact of these kind of campaigns. You ever use this, Jordan?
We've not used this yet, but we were just speaking with a couple of clients on Amazon, and we're actually looking for an Amazon partner. It's one of the only partners we don't have, actually. And we were talking about some of this stuff as well. Yeah,
it works pretty well. It's cool. I mean, you still, like, Amazon's still Amazon. They're not going to give you all the data, but they tell you they tell you high level how many orders you got in the revenue. They won't give you the specific customers, to audit.
Yeah, I was at a mastermind recently and actually made a video on it. But one of my friends, he's done great. He's exited some companies, e-commerce companies. And I was asking him, like, what's the one thing about Amazon? Like, can we have like one secret tactic, right? Because people always want the tactics. And he said to be afraid of Amazon, So
the
I think I think it's important just to make sure that you play it all by the book there, because they are we don't want to annoy them.
Right. So I think we've got 4 or 5 case studies here of various health wellness supplement brands, what they're doing to drive retention. The first one's one of my favorites because I drink it every morning. Four Sigmatic. They do like mushroom coffee, mushroom teas and coffees and things like that. And we ran acquisition for them. So through a direct mail campaign. Direct mail's similar to email in a lot of ways. One way it's more like Meta than email is you can do acquisition. In this case, came up with an acquisition audience, dropped this campaign, and the goal wasn't to drive people to the Shopify site. It was to drive people to Whole Foods to purchase. So a lot of supplement brands sell through D2C. They sell through Amazon. They also sell through third-party retailers, Whole Foods, Target, Costco. What we can do is we can build an audience of people who shop at Whole Foods, maybe within a certain mile, like 5 miles of the Whole Foods in Austin, and really hyper target the acquisition campaign to drive those people in store to purchase. Why would you want to do this? Because a lot of brands go into a Whole Foods, they launch in a Whole Foods in 1 or 2 stores. They need to do really well in those stores, and then Whole Foods will launch them nationwide. So it's to their benefit to kind of drive people into the store to purchase. So that's an example of an acquisition campaign. And when you're thinking about acquisition with direct mail, we have this household graph, right? So if you think about every household in North America is in this graph. We know what they buy. We know the demographics of that household, a lot of the characteristics. And again, relevant to a lot of the brands here, we can pull up things like is into CrossFit or has diabetes or what, all these propensity attributes of a customer, which may be relevant to you as a supplement brand. And then we can build a targeting audience here to new customer acquisition. You do this, it's on par with Meta in terms of its effectiveness. And like I said, you could also use it to drive people to store to purchase. Abandoned cart campaign. This is probably a campaign that like one of the top 3 or 4 that every brand should do just like an email, no difference, almost always works. We could almost guarantee an ROI here. It's going to be in the high single digits, if not more, of an ROI. So very simple pro mix, great brand. You put a tag on your site. Basically, the deal with an abandoned cart, they haven't left an address, a physical address yet. You'd be lucky if they've dropped an email. But even without the email, we can correlate sort of that visitor, that IP address to a physical address. You put some rules around it, like how many days you want to wait, and then drop a card. It works really well. And what we see a lot of people doing through our Klaviyo integration is basically like the killer abandoned cart sequence, which is like, hey, visitor abandons a cart. Here's an email immediately with one offer. A day later, another email. Maybe 2 days later, a third email. If the visitor has not converted with those 3 or 4 emails, then you send a postcard, and the postcard often converts where the email didn't. So
100%.
I don't know if you guys have built out any of these kind of sequences.
Yep. And I'll just add to that, there's kind of different ways to approach this depending on your brand, right? If you're supplements, I'd say there's a high chance there could be a lot of supplement brands in here that might be more direct response, or there might be some that are building brand. I think there's always that difference. Obviously some do both, but if you are more direct response, I think it is important here for your direct mail to handle the biggest objections. So if there's like one big objection that always comes up, or if there's multiple, just make sure that you have that on the card to make sure that you can overcome those objections. So it's something that we've tested a lot inside of emails, and it's like the very same really with direct mail. And another thing is as well, you can also like add some humor as well to some of these direct mail, and we do it with a lot of emails as well, and just like give people updates. So like what you could do is a simple one where it's like, you've seen how fast this card got to you. You can like order now, and your order will be here within the next 48 hours. The very same this card got here. And like simple, just like updates like that. And like I said, you can add some humor in there and do a joke around it as well. It does really, really good. But I'd say take those two things, more of the like handle the objections, give them more of an update with some humor, can do great. And also like, if you don't want to do that, sure, you can just like send the postcard, make it very simple with an offer in there, also works. But I think like at the end of the day, it's just about getting it out, and you'll see this. It's like almost impossible for this not to bring in an ROI. So yeah, just go and test it. And in regards to time delays, everyone wants the perfect time delay, but there is no perfect one. You have to find out what's right for your brand. So just test it, have it trigger after the email flow. And yeah, like you said, Drew, you could almost guarantee it here. Like it's very rare we see that this doesn't work.
Especially if you put it at the end of the sequence, it's like you're not going to spend money to send a card out unless the customer got to the point where they haven't converted. So it's a great way to conserve your ad dollars. Fighting churn. So this is, if you're a supplement wellness company, odds are you offer a subscription. Great way to manage your, what's the worst thing that could happen? Customer cancels a subscription. When they cancel a subscription, they often unsubscribe from your email at the same time. So you've got like no way to get a hold of this customer. Direct mail could step in. So we integrate with things like Recharge and Skio. And what the integrations allow is like Recharge could send the specific reason why the customer unsubscribed or canceled the subscription to PostPilot. And then you could incorporate that on the card. If it was price, maybe you want to lean into a certain offer. If it was, you've got enough, maybe you want to lean into another offer or something on the card. So great way to trigger like an automated campaign that is pretty high ROI because, once that customer churns, they're sort of gone forever.
100%. I think you covered it all there, Drew. I don't have much else to add here. It's like for every brand that has subscription, it's super important. I would definitely get this added and just track the ROI over a 90-day period. See those people. Did they come back? Did they get on a subscription for a different brand? Because also sometimes like people will just, they'll just have too many. They haven't been consuming it. And then they'll like see the direct mail come through and be like, oh, I actually don't have much left. I'm going to order it again. So, like all of this stuff, it's simple to do. You have it set up, track the ROI, and it's going to be pretty good here.
But this I feel like half our brands are protein brands these days. What an explosion in that category, you know? It's like everybody wants more protein.
Yeah.
Winback, you touched on this on that power slide earlier, but this is engineering that second purchase. Like get a second purchase campaign, a win back. If you know customers who usually buy are going to buy every 30 days, if it's been 35, 40, 45 days, that customer hasn't come back, great time to engineer a promo like this.
Yep. 100%. And I think if you do this along with other channels as well, it's going to do even better. Just making sure that the customer gets the message and just make sure that it's being triggered at a similar time so we can do all that we can to get them back, especially first to second. If we can just focus on that as much as possible, put your dollars into that, the first to second, they'll come back organically then after that, or much easier, I would say. So definitely put your focus there.
And Jordan, you touched on this earlier, just doing something a little bit different. Direct mail is different anyway, but if you could differentiate a bit on the card, it's always sort of works really well. And we see brands that do, a lot of founder-driven brands do these handwritten cards. No, you don't have to actually handwrite these cards yourself. Like we got a machine that does this, but it could emulate.
I thought you were still doing these, Drew. I thought you were doing all these before Black Friday.
They're hard at work, but no, like you send us a handwriting sample and it can match your style. The robots make little errors, so the human eye thinks it's all handwritten. But long and short, like there have been studies that show that customers that receive a handwritten note go on to spend twice as much with the brand as a control group that didn't receive the handwritten note. So I can think of like no better reason to have these going, if not to every customer who checks out, then maybe your VIPs or something, but easy to automate. They cost like $1 or $2 to send out. So in the return is you're going to get twice the LTV going forward because of that human sort of experience that the customer experienced.
And yeah, just show gratitude. And I'm always big on just telling stories. I think it's important to tell stories. A lot of marketing these days, especially some post-purchase stuff is just, thank you. And it's the same old, same old. I think if you can really like share some sort of story that people are going to remember, it's really, really important.
So I think that's all we wanted to cover. We wanted to go over some use cases. We wanted to go over maybe how to think about direct mail and integrate it into your overall retention strategy. Retention for brands. What do you got? What's the audit?
Yeah, for sure. So for us, overall, our goal is to just work with bigger and better brands that we can work with for a very long time. Like our goal is just to figure out how can we work with these brands and, just really help them out with everything. We want to be a part of their marketing and their brand going forward. So for us, like our sales process and our whole thing is we just want to provide value first. So if you go to this link, you'll be able to schedule in with my co-founder, Adam. And that's just doing a full deep dive on everything retention. This is not an email audit. This is not like going into your email campaigns and flows. This is looking at everything. What are you doing with loyalty, with your direct mail, with all these other channels, with even like surveys, feedback, reviews? How can we look at all of these different touch points and how can we tie this back into your retention strategy to make sure you're getting the biggest ROI, making sure that your numbers on the front end as well. And what do we need to be driving? What does the return customer rate looking at and all this sort of stuff. So there's a lot of different touch points that we look at, but for us, we just want to make sure that we can provide a detailed audit for you and show you the details. And if we're a good fit, obviously we can take it from there. But honestly, I love seeing behind the hood of some brands, and I love hopping into some brands that are already doing stuff amazing. And sometimes we'll come across that where a brand is doing great and we're like, guys, there's a couple of things that we recommend, but kudos to you. Like you're doing a great job. And I love seeing that, especially when they have all the channels firing. It's rare, to be fair, but recently we had it with a brand that was doing a lot, which is great. So yeah, if that's something you're interested in, go to that link on screen and we'd be able to chat with Adam and take it from there.
That's awesome. Love audits. Take advantage of the audit. That'd be my recommendation, like as a great first step. If you're a CMO watching this, and either you got to think through all this yourself, or you could just have somebody do the audit for you and tell you like where your holes are, where your missed opportunities are. For us, you go to postpilot.com/Q5. We got a whole Q5 offering, which is basically like, hey, we'll do everything for you. And that we talked about today, your winbacks, abandoned carts, all those things, just to get you set up. It's all complimentary, I think, as Jordan mentioned. We've got a design team in-house to help you with the design, or just work with an agency like Retention for Brands, and it's sort of bundled in there too. So it's not an either or. But yeah, check it out. And we could certainly fast track you to get some results over the next month or two. And that's all I got. I don't think we had any questions, Jordan. You got anything else you want to say?
No, I think that's it. I just like the most important is just to start. Like if you're watching this and you're not doing direct mail, just connect. Just try it. Just test it. See the results for yourself, and take it from there. And then just make sure that you go and implement this. But I'm excited for everyone to go and implement all of this, and I appreciate everyone showing.
Thanks, Jordan.